And welcome back, everyone, to the Zanpakuto creation series. This one comes to us from. I had to do a double take reading this. So, why is Spawn Al Simmons Zanpakuto spawns? But it's from Darth Vader, so I'm like, wait, I've done Darth Vader, right? Is it? No, it was Spawn. I had to double check too. I hadn't done Spawn Zanpakuto. Now, and I need to reiterate this a little bit. Just because there was someone commenting, and they were commenting, it's fine. But I think they were missing kind of like the idea of the Zanpakuto a little bit, and I think I explained to him in a comment, is that we're not just giving a character in their world a Zanpakuto. Like, I'm not just giving, say, Double D from Ed, Edd n Eddy was a perfect example of this. It's not that you give Double D in his world of Ed, Edd n Eddy a Zanpakuto and let him run. It's you take that character, basically put them in the world of Bleach, make them a part of the world of Bleach with all its physics and rules, and then give them a Zanpakuto. So there you go. But so yeah, this is another one of those cases where, because of circumstance, we can apply certain aspects of the power set of Spawn to their Zanpakuto. Case in point, because of Letha of the 7th House of K being a separate entity that is demonic and affects his soul, we can use that in some creative fashion to influence his Zanpakuto. Now, that being said, I had to determine what exactly Al's original Zanpakuto would have probably been. So, his original Zanpakuto, he was an assassin at first, and a really good one, too. But he's not an assassin in the same way that, say, Soifone is. It would not have been a poison. I mean, you could make an argument that maybe there is poison within the tip of the blade of the Zanpakuto. And you know what? Honestly, saying that, I'm like, I like that idea. I'd say, though, it's not like, the two-step kill with Soifone. It'd be something very different. Maybe something that suppresses Ryatsu, or spiritual pressure. That's not a bad idea, actually. So I'd argue maybe you could go that route. But its standard form is still a katana. Most are. And its release is find your target. Now, the difference here is that whatever the original name of the Zanpakuto was, it has been changed to Letha, because that is the name of the symbiotic suit he wears. Its Bankai is also Letha of the 7th House of K, so there you go. Or Letha dai 7 Housu no K. Now, the spirit also would probably be Letha itself. Now, what Letha looks like in a humanoid fashion, or even a non-suit fashion, difficult to say. Although, technically, the entire outfit you see as Spawn, the mask, the emblem, all that is Letha. So maybe it literally just looks like but Letha is a female name, and I believe it is described as a female. So maybe it's just a female version of Spawn. Maybe that's what you're looking at when he goes into his inner world. But what the Zanpakuto ultimately initially was, at least in my mind, a spear. Now, a really good spear. It's not like just a wooden spear with a metal tip. That's not. No, it is a durable. Like, it looks wood and probably maybe feels like wood, but it's got a metal core, so it's not going to just snap. But the difference here is that the tip of the blade, the length of the blade, I think is a little longer. It's not just like a few inch long blade. No, I think it's like at least a 6-inch long blade. So a decent length blade at the end of that spear. But more importantly, what it does is something a little akin to Ikaku Zanpakuto. There's a chain in there, basically. But the difference is, because it's, magic swords and all that, the blade's attached chain where he can basically just extend and just attack from a long distance and whip around and use it. Now, mind you, that sounds well and good in theory, but you still have the giant spear, handle, if you will, the body of the spear to deal with. So that's actually not as easy to manipulate as you might think. However, I could see there being a partial, not sentience, but like telekinetic control of the spearhead and spear chain. So I could see that being the case. It would still have an impressive range, being at minimum a mid-range weapon. Maybe even a low long range weapon. But you know what I mean when I say low long range. Like in terms of whatever the definition of long range would be, it's maybe on a low end of that scale. And thinking on it more because he is an assassin, I do like the idea of the poison in the blade. So I think actually that is a nice counter to that. Now, that being said, the original Zanpakuto probably was probably a little shorter of a blade. It was probably closer to more like a bladed lance. So it maybe had like a 3 foot body that you could hold with two hands, and it had maybe more like a foot long blade initially. I can also see the spearhead being a bit jagged, maybe the actual handle being a bit ornate. Um, but yeah, or that would be the original design, and it would still have the poison, I'd say. Now the Bankai, again, it really because we are going from Hal to Lilith, basically. We would be looking at something where I think you're not manifesting the suit, I don't think, but I think what it is you're the Ryatsu, and you basically have a mix of Ryatsu and change with the new Zanpakuto, whereas before, I think you had basically just you were more or less wearing poison, like you were wearing poisoned armor on you. So it still carries the idea of wearing your Zanpakuto, but now I think aspects of Lilith really come through. I don't think you get. I think maybe you get like the bottom part of the mask, and maybe it wraps the eyes, but your hair's still there. But really, what it is, it's Ryatsu and chains. But the poison of the blade still very much exists. You could even have a cape of chains that is kind of bound with your Ryatsu and looks like Spawn's cape. But if you were to hit it, it'd be revealed to be chakra chains or Ryatsu chains or just standard chains in general. I mean, honestly, these chains are made of Ryatsu anyway. And really, if he wants, he can just literally separate all these chains from his body and just have this like this maelstrom of chains. Now, before that being said, before we go into weaknesses and real strengths of this Zanpakuto, we do have to acknowledge that Lilith is not an entity, as far as we know right now, that exists within not Lilith herself, but what Lilith is, a symbiotic demonic entity, is not something that exists in the world of Bleach. So the question is, what would the equivalent be of her? Well, luckily we do still have the Hell arc to go into when we eventually get to the Hell arc. Now I doubt something like Lilith exists like straight out in Hell in Bleach, but we do know that I think they're called Byatos, the parasitic Zanpakuto exist. From the they call it, I think, the third Captain Shuge Agame arc. We do know that those exist, and we do know there's a Hell in Bleach. So it's entirely possible that what you could get here is maybe a mix of, again, I think it's called Byato and demonic entity of Hell in their world mixed together to create a variation on Lilith. So, with that said, how strong and how weak is this Zanpakuto? Well, its Shikai form is a good long-range weapon and can still be used as a melee weapon as well. The poison, like I said, would be used to probably suppress Ryatsu, meaning it'd be very hard, in spiritual pressure, would mean it'd be very hard for them to actually, effectively use their techniques, depending on how much Ryatsu they have, against a higher level individual, say like Yamamoto, Ichigo, Aizen, Kenpachi. It would sure weaken them, but many of them have abilities that kind of supersede that. Like Kenpachi can literally adjust his power to a certain, based on his opponent. So that wouldn't necessarily work. Ichibei literally controls conceptual concepts, so that might not be the best bet. Or Yuko Baby. Sorry, my dog's right here. I'm just giving her love. But still, it'd be useful nonetheless. And again, it's definitely a good mid to low long range weapon for that. It's got no elemental capabilities, though. Its piercing strength is limited. If you're up against a supreme defense, you're not really going to be able to hurt someone. And someone who's quick enough could easily catch or even slice the chain of the Zanpakuto and Shikai. The Bankai is certainly more effective, though. Multiple chains moving, being unpredictable, taking forms and shapes. And the poison, I'd imagine, probably has a much more powerful suppressant in it. Like in Bankai, now that poison isn't just suppressing your Ryatsu, it is probably acting more like a paralytic, or it's acting like is acting, I wouldn't say necrotic, but it maybe has a much more painful effect on the opponent. So it is the usual baby. Yes, oh, your baby. Oh, your baby. She's like lying here. It's like, oh, now I'm getting scratched. Now I'm getting loved. So I think it would be a lot more of a dangerous weapon, but at the same time, it's still not an infallible Zanpakuto. Like any sort of elemental Zanpakuto, ice would be a specific problem for Zanpakuto, just freezing the chains in place. Lightning, I mean, they're still technically metal, so they would conduct electricity. So like Gonryo Riku, I believe, is Gonryomaru Bankai. I could be wrong on that. But so anything that's electric based would be problematic. Like elemental Zanpakutos would be problematic. Yeah, the chain still got good reach, but again, it's still limited to a certain degree. And again, piercing effect. The chains, even though they have blades on there and they can be, powerful, they're not necessarily, um, like piercing weapons naturally. Ironically, Owl's original Zanpakuto would have been a better piercing weapon than the spear. So either way, uh, I'd say that's the Zanpakuto of Al Simmons, aka Spawn. That's my thoughts, though. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.